Good evening and welcome to Nightline. I'm your host, Dante Thompson, and we're already having fun. Even before the cameras are on, it's going to be a really fun night, and we're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that's adoption. So if you know anybody that is adopted or you're thinking about adoption, or maybe you're adopted, or even a foster child or something, tune in tonight. Stay with us tonight because the story you're going to hear is phenomenal. Got my good friend Chauncey Smith with us. Thank you so much for being here, Chauncey.
Oh, it's an honor.
Yes, sir.
Really nice to be here.
Yes, sir.
Hello, WGGS.
Yeah. And,
South Carolina. Hi, everybody.
And you're kind of no stranger to our viewing audience because
Kind of.
your program, you're the producer and talent coordinator
Sir.
of a program called Lifestyle Magazine.
Yes.
That airs right here on 16.2. And I should have looked up before.
What time?
What time?
People can Google it.
They can Google it. Yeah, go to our website, WGGS16.com or something like that.
Yeah, I've been with Lifestyle Magazine for... Actually, Lifestyle Magazine is the second longest continually running show under Meet the Press.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We have been on 66 years. Wow. Now, of course, we've changed formats, and we've changed stuff over the years, and different hosts and different stuff. And for a while, we were called Christian Lifestyle Magazine for quite a few years, but we found that all that did for us was put us on Sunday mornings, and people wanted to charge money, for that time. We've grown, and we've gotten so many celebrity guests, and from President Carter to Debbie Reynolds to Phyllis Diller to you name it. So many people have been on our show that we started airing at different times. So about 15 years ago, we dropped the word Christian and just call it Lifestyle Magazine. We still are Christians, don't worry, everybody out there. But we just, we got more airtime and better time slots.
Right. Well, and it's more appealing to people that it's not Christian. If they see something that says Christian lifestyle or whatever, they're not going to watch it. That doesn't appeal to them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So we have found, and we are on your sister station in Atlanta too, and here, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Yeah.
What a great bunch of people. Everybody from the person that helped me book to help me with the makeup to the directions here. It's a great staff, everybody.
Well,
so thank you.
I like to brag on them. We got one of the best staff I've ever worked with. I've been in television now my whole life. But really into it about
60 years?
62 years now, okay? Don't cheat me out of those 2 years, Chauncey. All right, I earned those. No, but, I've been working in television now for 18 years, something like that. We do have the best staff just here that we've ever had, I believe. Used to be good, but it's gotten better.
It's kind of, and you can tell when you come because I do a lot of these things and I'm in the business too. So, and you can tell when things are organized and friendly, and this place definitely have it. And I want to encourage the viewers out there watching now to this topic that we're talking about is about not only adoption but blended families and stuff. So. Pick up the phone, call your neighbors, call your kids, call people, because this next half hour or hour, however long we talk, it's a very important topic.
Yeah.
Now, nowadays, so many people are adopting or have the option to adopt, and there's so many children out there that need parents, that need a loving, even if it's a single parent. My first choice would be two.
Exactly.
But if it can't be that, certainly a single parent.
Yeah.
Because some love, some guidance is better than no love and no guidance. So I encourage the viewers out there to write down the name of my book. So
that's right.
So That's Who I Am on Amazon.com, and call some people that that are adopted or that are in blended families, and have them tune in right now to catch on to this, because we both have a story.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I interview a ton of authors, and this is probably going to get me in trouble with some watching. This is the first book that I've ever read by anybody I've interviewed. I just don't have time to read everybody's book.
Well, that really means a lot.
And we were talking, I forget where we were, but we were eating dinner, and I think it's about the second time I've ever met you. And I said, well, I'll buy your book and read it,
And I thought, sure he will.
Yeah, so I was like, well, he's going to know if I don't because it's on Amazon. So I'm like, okay, I'm downloading it, And so I was sitting in an airport, and I started reading it. And I couldn't put it down. And I'm not a reader, and it's written so easily. I'd rather watch something than read, but I couldn't put it down. So they called me on the plane. I got on the plane, and I cannot read on planes. I still couldn't put it down.
Wow.
You know, and I just read the book.
Wow.
And so
Thank you.
I hope a lot of these other authors aren't watching tonight, or if they are, they forgive me.
Yeah.
But you know, but it was so not
Forgiveness
only
is healing.
Yes, exactly. But it wasn't just the fact that I promised you I'd buy it and read it.
Right.
But it was the fact that it was a really good book. But it struck home with me because I also am adopted.
And I think that too, in your story, I think, because you're going to play this forward, you're already playing this forward.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that you and I are talking about this here and now is going to help somebody.
I believe
and
so.
that's the whole reason.
Yeah.
Is because adoption, you know, there are so many, you know, unplanned pregnancies, but there's no unplanned adoptions.
Right.
You know, every adoption is planned out and thought of.
Yeah.
And if more people even knew that.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of love. Oh my goodness. Like with my situation, my parents were much, much older, past, you know, actually, they already had a grandbaby. My nephew is 3 years older than I am.
Wow.
So can you imagine having grandchildren and adopting not just me, but my brother as well? So 2 little children. I was 8 months, my brother was 2.5 years. And so it just takes so much love to go through something like that. And then like with my parents, like I said, they were much older, and the state gave them problems because of that age, you know. And so it was a process. It was a couple of year process. And
Wow.
just the love for me and my brother to stick with that process. They could have gave up and went back to
How
their
old
lives.
were you when this is going on?
I was 8 months old when my parents
months,
first
gotcha,
got
gotcha.
me. Yeah, and then it was kind of a battle, you know, between from what I understand, and this is where you and I differ. We'll get into this. I didn't ask a lot of questions because I was so young. I don't remember anything, but I know how it could have went. My biological parents didn't really want to give us up, but their family wanted them to because they were on drugs and alcohol, as so many times we'll see, you know. And so there was okay, this is the best for the child. Then a couple months later, I want the child back, you know, and just vice versa, you know, and finally, you know, the outcome's what it is. You know, I was adopted, and I thank God for that. So that's for sure. Because who knows where I'd be.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
But you do inherit, and in the book you'll see more about it, and we'll talk maybe more about it a little later. But you know, if you can inherit eye color and height and right hand, left hand, and all this kind of stuff, you can also inherit stress. And there is no greater stress that your mother is going through than the thought of giving that baby up.
Right.
And so we inherit all of that stuff. As a matter of fact, they've proven the very first thing that we inherit is abandonment.
Wow.
That's it. The very first thing. We don't know what abandonment means, but we inherit that.
Yeah.
Like it or not, that's the very first thing that we inherit.
Yeah.
And so, and my mom told me that she never touched me and she never looked at me.
Wow.
Because she knew if she did, she'd never be able to give me up.
And so that's been with
I mean,
you
the story
ever
that
since,
you'll see in the stories, the mother. I mean, it's a wonderful story. Both moms wrote a chapter
Okay.
in the book from their point of view,
Yeah.
and the sisters wrote a chapter in the book from their point of view. So it's not just my adoption affects the whole family. It doesn't just affect the mother and the dad and the kid. It affects the brothers and the sisters and the cousins.
Exactly.
You know, because you don't fit in anywhere ever at first. You know, and you can't really figure out why.
Yeah.
You know, why am I so different than everybody?
Yeah.
And mine was beautiful. I used to forget I was adopted. I really used to forget because things were fine. It wasn't until later where I met my biological sisters mostly. You find out strange things like, hey, we all put hot sauce on bananas. Or we all like, you know, pickles and milk. I'm serious, just the strangest things. And you're like, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
It's really weird. And you look at your skin and your freckles and your worries and you're like, man, I am like somebody.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Well,
powerful stuff.
Hence the name of the book. So that's who I am. I mean, you found
Is there a
out
camera
lot
on me
about
too?
yourself.
We should.
And it's right there. Look how big it is back here, Chauncey.
Oh, I love
it's
this
beautiful.
place.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, South Carolina. This is great.
Well, let's start at the
Sure,
beginning.
start-
That's the best place to start, I reckon.
Sure.
Tell us about your biological mother and your birth and the circumstances behind it.
Sure, and then just jump in if we want to. I'm better if we jump around. That's
good.
fine.
Yeah.
Your wonderful stage people, man, will keep us on track.
Oh, yeah.
My parents adopted me. What had happened was they had talked about having kids, but then they just newlyweds and didn't want to. My mom was a nurse in a hospital, and a doctor came to her one day and said, "There's this little boy who's up for adoption. Would you be interested?" And my first mom says, "No, but my best friends would be." Because their best friends were looking to adopt. So they went home and told their best friends, and their best friends said, "Well, let us think about it for 2 or 3 days." Well, while they were thinking about it, my mom and dad were, my parents were thinking about it, but they'd already offered me to their best friends. And the best friends a few days later said, "We're just not ready yet." And my mom said, "Well, good, because we are." So my mom and dad, they adopted me then. And even though my mom worked at the hospital, she never knew. She never saw my biological mom or me.
Oh, wow.
They were very strict back then. And that was also my biological mom's wishes.
Okay.
And so my parents adopted me. And what's funny is a few years later, less than a year later, their best friends adopted a little boy.
Wow.
And we grew up together.
What about that?
And so I am still very good friends. I thank them in the book because they were part of my life, even though they were going to be my parents. And now they're just very good, very good friends of mine. So I was adopted, and then a few years later, they adopted my sister. Okay. And then a few years later, they had my brother.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so me, and then my sister's name is Charmaine, and my brother's name is Barry. And we all knew that we were adopted, but my parents always said, "Look, we would love, if at any time, we will help you find your parents if you wish, if you want to." And of course, there were those teenage years where I would throw out the "you love Barry more than me because he's yours. I'm not really anything to dig into your parents."
Did you really ever feel that way?
No.
Or did Barry ever make you really feel that way?
No. Truthfully, no.
Yeah. That was just words out of anger.
Yeah, we're just teenager, and I really never thought about it too much. I really didn't. It wasn't until my dearest friend, Bina, she was going through a divorce, and she just really needed some things to do. And she said, "Chauncey, have you ever thought about finding?" And I said, "Well, yeah, not really. I couldn't do it. It was too much work mentally and physically for me."
Definitely.
But she asked if she could do it.
And this was kind of before Facebook and the internet.
It was still there, but it was the beginning kind of.
Not everybody was on.
It wasn't as easy as it is now. Yeah. And so she wanted to, and I said, "Go for it." And all I really knew was I was called on my birth certificate. I was Baby Boy Marison, Baby Boy Martin. So it was obviously that.
So your biological mother didn't have a name for you then? It was just
no, Baby Boy.
Baby Boy.
Baby Boy Marison.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she got married a week after she had me. So there were 2 names on the on my paperwork, and it had a couple of things like she was healthy. There's a couple things, and they were from back east somewhere. So my friend, there are thousands and thousands of Marisons.
Right.
And she knew back east, so she just started kind of calling around and finding, and she wrote a chapter in the book. So those of you out there too, that there are right ways and wrong ways to approach somebody, because everyone has their right. And her name is Bean, and like I said, she wrote a book on the do's and don'ts on how to have adoption, how to find somebody. So she started finding stuff, and it was just taking forever. And she was great on the phone. She always started off by saying, "I'm putting together a family tree for the Marisons. Are you a Marison?" And they would say yes, and then she'd say, "Well," and she took great notes. So she would try to find out if this Marison knew this Marison, and she just started working months and piecing stuff together. And she always started out by giving them her name and her phone number. So you can call me back if you think this is a joke or something. And so, here's my phone number.
Right.
Here's my email. Here's my home address.
Being very transparent.
She's the sweetest person on the phone. And she just said, "I'm just doing this for a friend. I'm just trying to put," the word adoption never came up.
Right.
"I'm just putting a family tree together." And people are willing to talk about that, as long as it's not details.
Right. Right.
Well, make a long story short, and we can talk more later, but I've always been a Lucille Ball fan. I love Lucy. And even as a little kid, my parents we'd watch Lucy all the time. But even when I was sick, they'd put Lucy on, and that theme music, I just loved it as a kid. And all growing up, I always would tell my friends, "I'm going to meet Lucille Ball." And everyone would be like, sure you're going to meet Lucille Ball. And I just had this feeling I was going to meet Lucille Ball. Well, I worked in the entertainment business, and a couple times I'd be at events where she had just left or something. I'd think, oh man, you know. And I was at an event honoring Anne Margaret.
Okay.
And Lucy showed up. Lucy was there, and I did meet Lucille Ball, and I did get my picture with Lucille Ball, and she's in the book. There's the picture of Lucy and I are in the book that I hope you all will get. So that's who I am on Amazon.com. But my friend one time said, you know what? She said, instead of going from state to state, city to city, she goes, I'm just going to jump around, Bina. And she jumped around, and she found a Lucy and an Ethel Marison that were sisters. And she said, oh, how funny. She says, I think I'll just start with those two.
Yeah.
Those were my aunts. I had an Aunt Lucy and an Aunt Ethel.
No.
And it saved probably a year's worth of work. Isn't that amazing?
That is hilarious.
And she called Aunt Ethel and said, you know, the Lucy and Aunt, do you have any nieces and nephews? Yeah, narrowed it right down and found my mom.
That is awesome, man. Just
that connection.
That connection for Lucille Ball, your love. That is
Isn't that
crazy.
Funny?
That is crazy.
I mean, God's amazing.
It
you
is.
know?
Wow.
And you know he has a sense of humor.
This is key point. Lucy and Ethel. That's
sisters.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to meet Aunt Ethel before she passed.
Good.
I didn't get to meet Aunt Lucy, but I did get to meet Aunt Ethel.
Wow.
And she actually almost adopted me.
Really?
When my mom came.
Talk about the situation with your biological mother leading up to why she.
She was 20. She was 21. And she was in a relationship, an abusive relationship. And it's in the book. It's all in the book. And he was not good to her, and physically and mentally. And her parents were, I think they would have been more supportive, but right off the bat, not maybe as much as she felt. So she flew from Ohio out to California and stayed with Aunt Ethel, and had me. Didn't have any help. Didn't have any family. Didn't have any of that kind of stuff, and except for Aunt Ethel. And then she.
Did your biological grandparents know that you were being born? Did they know that?
They knew. They knew that their daughter was pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They knew that. I didn't get to meet them either.
Okay.
Now my mom, Loretta, she was dating this gentleman, Richard. They broke up. She started dating my father. It wasn't good. So she came out, had me, and Richard, the first guy that she was dating, came out to California, picked her up. They got married a week later.
Wow. And
unfortunately, he just passed. They had 4 daughters.
Wow.
So my biological father was, and that's all in there because we did meet. I crashed a wedding. We'll get there. But that's a whole nother side of the story. What I want people out there to, if you're just tuning in and stuff or just listening, it's important to have that closure. It's important to have some kind of, even if it's hard, even if it's bad, and you find it the older, at least I found it the older I got. When this whole thing was coming together, it wasn't until I met my mom and my sisters and stuff, that I realized how important it was that I found them. Because I remember, people would always say things like, oh, I just buried that, or I don't remember. And I always wonder, how can people bury something? How do people really not remember something? Well, I had done that to myself.
Right.
I didn't realize until 20 years later into this whole process that it was important to me, that I did remember my brother, everybody that would say how much my brother looked like my dad, because he did. But I didn't think I remembered that.
Right.
But I did. And I also remember anytime someone would say how much I look like my mom. Well, I didn't look like my mom.
Right.
I couldn't look like my mom.
Yeah.
But you just smile and take it. And so it really was an issue that I didn't realize I had. Until later. I remember everybody. I remember the smells. I remember the restaurant. I remember any time that somebody would say, "Oh, you're just like your brother," and I would, "Yeah, I know," but I wasn't like my brother.
Right. Well, I've had that too. Now with my situation, it was different a little bit because my brother is actually my biological brother as well. They adopted both of us, but I remember many times, even into my teenage years and early 20s, where people would say that me and my dad looked so much alike, and And of course, he was a bigger guy too. So anybody
wasn't trim.
Yeah. So we had that. Like you. We had that going for us. But yeah, and so and people didn't know that I was adopted, and I just did same thing, smile and So I didn't take it that way. So, but well, Bina. So this was kind of her idea to track down when. Of course, you okayed it. You gave
absolutely.
Her your blessing.
And she took wonderful notes, and she kept me. And she'd always say, "Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure?" Because she was getting closer.
When she started, did you give it much thought? Were you thinking, "Well, I hope she finds my mother," or
Truthfully, I always would tell myself, if I had a choice, two doors, and one door was filled with my possible brothers and sisters, and one door was filled with my possible parents, and I only could choose one, I would choose the brothers and sisters. And I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why. But I always kind of felt, just kind of felt that because I had great parents. I don't know, maybe that's the reason, but as it started getting closer, the anxiety would build up. As a matter of fact, because we had a couple of, Bina ended up talking to my mom's sister and my mom's brother, even though she knew she didn't really want to talk to them. She wanted to make them comfortable. So by the time she called Loretta, she could say to her, "Oh, I just talked to your brother Bill.
Right.
I just talked to your sister Carol." And then Loretta was much more willing to tell more, And Bina talked to her for probably 20 minutes. And very nice conversation. Again, the word adoption never comes out. This was just trying to find out. And one of the notes on the back of the paperwork that we had, it said that she was Presbyterian and played the accordion or something like that as a child. Just a couple little hobbies. So my Bina, that was, hey, you religious? Oh, Presbyterian. Do you ever play any? Yeah, we used to play the accordion. So we're like, this is her. This has got to be her. So when Bina felt it was right, she said, "Can I ask you a very personal question?" And she said, "Well, of course." And she says, "Were you ever in California? In 1963, were you ever in California?" And then dead silence. And Bina said it was dead silent for about a minute, maybe two, which is a long time on a phone.
Silence, exactly.
Yeah. And my friend said, Bina said, "Loretta, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm okay. No, I was never in California." And she said, "Oh, thank you." And so in our hopes, see the whole thing, and my parents were involved because Bina took great notes. So me and my mom and dad were reading this, and we were all very. Well, and then there was a letdown again.
Did it ever cross your mind that she might be lying or ashamed, or is it just like this is a dead end? This is the wrong Loretta?
At that point, we were so. I mean, how many we were so close, and we had talked to her brother and sister, and her sister had told us that her sister had been to California on a trip, so we knew it was probably her. But you can't force someone. Yeah. About less than a week later, Loretta called Bina because, like I said, she always gave her phone number. She called Bina and she says, "This is Loretta." And she says, "I'm not a liar. I've never been a liar. I was in California." And so they talked. But she had, in her mind, she always assumed that my mom and dad would never tell me I was adopted. So and that's how she put it. So she never thought that phone call would come.
She didn't think that you knew.
She never thought that phone call would come. That was the only way she could justify it in her head. She had 4 daughters, so she hadn't told.
So they didn't know.
Nobody knew. Wow. Nobody knew. Her husband, because he came to California and picked her up, but it was never discussed.
So this is something that, I mean, I don't want to use the word.
No, use whatever word you
sweep under the rug, but
yeah.
I mean.
And her first grandson was a boy.
Oh, wow.
She had she had me, and then 4 daughters. And when she had to hold that grandson for the first time.
That all came back.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And her chapter took the longest in the book.
Wow.
Because it was just, she had to relive a lot of stuff, a lot of guilt and a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And she's just the greatest lady.
Yeah.
But, she made the right decision. I mean, like you said, I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful. And I'm still finding these pieces, again, to your viewers and stuff, adoption and blended families, it's an ongoing process. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more kind of one of your situations that we shared earlier at lunch, where you do have some decisions that you should or could make, and it doesn't just affect you.
Right, right. Well, for me, my parents were the same way. Anything you want to know, we'll answer. They never just said this situation. I mean, I put it together, and occasionally they would bring up certain things, but they didn't go deep. They wanted to know if we wanted to know it.
Right.
And then, again, if you ever want to find them, we'll do that, But with me, my earliest memory, and I've never shared this before, this is just odd, I guess. My earliest memory was of my mother, my adopted mother, her mother, which she died. I was born in July of 1985, and she died in January 1987, I want to say. So I'd have been very young, less than 2 years old. And, that's like my earliest memory. And so that was during the process of the whole adoption, because it took about 3 years. So that would have been during that process. But I never have any memory of my biological parents. All of it was of my adopted parents. And so I would always tell her, I'm happy with what I know. I'm happy with you guys as my parents. You're the parents that I know. And I didn't want to, I was happy. I mean, I don't want to go from here and take the chance of going here. Or in your situation, I mean, you were here, and then it escalated.
Well, I was here and then back down here.
So at the time, I was there. But like you said, as you got older, you wanted to know things. I'm still relatively young, I guess, and so maybe my mind will change. And my mind, I gave thoughts to it after reading the book.
You already think that the fact that you've talked about it a little bit privately with me, and the fact about what you just said here, you're on. No, we don't know what you'll do, but you're certainly considering things you wouldn't have a year ago.
Exactly.
And you had children, and so I think
one of the weirdest things for me. Again, it's not something I dwell on or think about every day.
I didn't either.
It's just how I was.
Yep.
That's just it. You get used to being adopted, that's all you know. And so, both of my parents I lost in 2011, 3 months apart. Hard time on me. Of course, like I said, they were older when they adopted me. So my mother was 29 when she passed. That's what she would have said, She said, I'm 29 plus, or 29 and holding, And then my father was 82 when he passed. And so that was hard on me at 25 years old to lose both my parents at a young age. I know there's people that's lost parents as children and whatnot, but it was still hard on me. Anytime you've lost parents now, it's hard at any age. But just a couple of months after my parents died, my daughter was about to turn 2. So her birthday's in July. My father died in June. So just a couple of months after either my mother or father died, I can't remember now, but very close. I got a message on Facebook. I was using Dante Thompson on Facebook, and it's like, I want to see pictures of my grandchild. And I get that time, my daughter was born before my brother's daughter, so it would have been the first grandchild. And I'm just like, at first I was like, well, my mother just died, and it's not my wife's mother, I don't know who this woman is. It's a stranger to me. And then it hit me. It took a while because I'm stupid like that, I guess. It took about a half a minute, and then it hit me. I'm like, whoa, I'm adopted. This is a biological grandmother, and that just freaked me out. Because here's a stranger. Of course, I was going through a lot of emotions with my parents. And not just my parents, but my daughter's grandparents at that point. And then here's some lady claiming to be my daughter's grandmother, and I'm like, whoa. And so I got off Facebook and freaked out, and I've never been back on under my name now. So I'm under an alias. I'm not going to give that out because somebody might be watching. Anyway, I'll give it to you later, brother. So, was that wrong? Is there a right way and a wrong way?
I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think that's what's important. I really don't think there's a right or wrong. I'm going to stay in contact with you because I'm curious on what the next 6 months will be like for you. Because I tell you, you have to be. Most people won't understand what this feels like. We all know what it's like to lose a parent, or to go to a wedding, or to graduate, or be 16 or 18 or 20. We all know those are typical feelings that the whole world knows. Being adopted, and those feelings are a feeling and emotion that not everybody knows. You know it, and I know it, but I'm sure a lot of your viewers don't know it.
Right.
And it's an emotion, and it's a real struggle. And it's because it's you. It's a piece of you that's half here, half there. And so it's a definite journey, journey.
I know, like you said, if you had two doors and you had siblings versus your biological parents, you would go siblings. And I know for me, and my parents promised me, and I believe them, I don't have any other siblings. Now, my wife, she's incredibly nosy.
I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, y'all would get along well. Y'all would track down my whole family in 5 minutes, I guarantee it. Let's take a break for a song. I want to tell a story, though, when we come back. Johnathan Bond, or I should say Bond, Johnathan Bond.
Bond.
Johnathan Bond. I created you, singer.
Here's you a good reminder today. I created you, I know you by name. There's no one like you, no, there's no one quite the same. From the start of time, I've called you for great things. Even though you've fallen, my purpose for you, it still remains. You don't have to stay there. You have been set free. Those chains, they were all broken the moment you called out to me. I have heard your cries, though nothing was said. Let go of the guilt, let go and lift up your head. I gave you life and I still have a plan. There's no greater time than now to reach up and take my hand. You don't have to stay there. You have been set free. Those chains, they were all broken the moment you called out to me. You don't have to stay there. No, you don't. You have been set free. Those chains, they were all broken the moment you called out to me. I created you, I know you by name.
All right, great music. Bond, Johnathan Bond, doing a great job. I created you, and everybody's created, and everybody has a purpose, and that we're talking about that purpose in that place today. But Chauncey, sometimes I got good guests like you up here. Most of the time I got good guests on here, and we get to talking, and we forget about our other guests, like our music guests. So we need to take a break and go to them. But
What a perfect song.
perfect song. I mean, God has created everybody and everybody in His image. So if everybody is created in His image, nobody is useless. Everybody is needed in this world, adopted, fostered. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're feeling tonight. You're needed and you're wanted and you're created exactly how God wanted you. And just think, I mean, people think, well, I wish my nose was different, or I wish this was different, or I wish I had this personality. Think about this. The creator of the universe that created everything we know of and the things we don't know of and the things we don't understand. He created you just like you are. Who are we to argue with that? This is his perfect plan.
He doesn't
for
make
us.
mistakes.
He does not. And throughout your life and throughout mine, I've looked back and I'm like, well, what did I do here, But everywhere we go, we're on that path. And we'll get there eventually where he wants us to go. So we might have a roadblock here, a roadblock there. I always use the analogy of God's plan as GPS. Now, you came down from Charlotte yesterday. This is where your biological mother's up there.
Exactly. Flew from L.A.
to Charlotte, and tomorrow you go to Atlanta. And during this time, you watching that GPS.
Yes, I am.
You're trusting that GPS to get you to your destination. We need to trust God to get us to our destination.
Amen.
When that thing says take a left, I don't take a right. So many times when God says take a right, we take a left. So we need to pay attention. But before our song, we were talking about kind of my situation a little bit, which I don't talk about often because I like talking about other people's situations, I guess.
But your situation involves other people's situations.
It does, yeah.
And that's what you need to remember. I'm not telling you what to do.
I agree.
But you do need to think that there are other people involved in your story, and these people have a right to, and now especially with some medical stuff, sometimes you got to consider.
My wife has brought that up a lot. Now that I got 3 children, especially.
It's nice to know a little bit because you never know.
Every male in my family could drop dead at 40, and I'll be.
Well, things you don't want to know.
Yeah, that I don't want to know. But you said if you had 2 doors.
Yes.
You had siblings behind one and your biological parents behind one. You would take that sibling. In my situation, I was assured there's no other children. And with Facebook and my nosy wife, I feel confident.
Who I want to
in
meet.
that. You need to meet her. But she has come across other relatives, cousins and stuff like that, that are around my age. And that has made me wonder, would they want to meet me? Would I want to meet them? Do they need to meet me? Do they know about me? You had 4 sisters that never even knew about you. But when you came across those 4 sisters and said, I'm your brother, what had to go through their mind?
Well,
what would go through some of my biological families?
What I think is important, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's very important, people, is it's not just the child and the parents that are affected. You've got cousins, you've got nieces, you've got nephews, you've probably got a handful of relatives out there.
Yeah.
Even if you have one, that's one more you knew you had. When Bina talked to my biological mom, and she admitted that it was her. She said, "Can Chauncey call you?" And she said yes. And so then she called me, and I immediately went to my parents, and we talked about it and prayed about it, and I said, "Well, I'll just wait for her to call me." My mom said, "No, you call her.
Oh.
You go home right now and you call her." So here I have my mom telling me what to do to my biological mom. So I went home, and I remember that I had this cordless phone in my house, and I was pacing. And I would dial it, and then I'd hang up. And I would dial it, and I hang up.
It's like you see on the movies. You were
totally,
literally doing
totally.
that.
I was like, to this day, I don't know if God dialed it or if I bumped it with my I don't know. But I remember doing, and I hear hello, and I'm like, hello? And it had gone through.
Wow.
And I said, then of course Loretta and we had a wonderful discussion, very nerve-wracking. I don't even remember all the details to it. Some tears, of course. When I hung up, it was wonderful. We just decided we were going to send pictures. That was the next step we were going to do. She was going to send me some pictures, and I was going to send her some pictures.
Yeah.
And that was the next step. And then
Did she recognize you in the pictures? I mean, she didn't have you long.
Well, she didn't have any pictures yet at this point in this story.
Once she received the pictures, or am I jumping the gun?
You're jumping the gun.
Okay, I'll wait.
Only because at my age, I kind of have to go in order.
Let's do it then.
And so I went, of course, to tell my parents. When I got home, I had 3 messages. Hi, this is Rita. I'm your sister. Welcome to our beep. Hi, this is Leanne. I'm your sister.
Wow.
Hi, this is Sue. And eventually Shelly called too. So I talked to all 4 sisters
Your mother
right away.
She wanted to tell them.
Yeah, she was scared out of her mind. She called the
She
called the daughters over and she told them, and she was so afraid they would judge her or blame her or something. It was complete opposite.
Yeah.
They're like, now we have a brother.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so it turned out to be absolutely fantastic. And sure enough, I got pictures in the mail. And I could start to see, for the first time I could see. So I immediately hurried over to my mom and dad's to show them. What I didn't know was my mom had already gotten a bunch of pictures ready together to send her.
Wow. Wow.
My mom had already gone and done that.
And that's awesome that your parents were behind you 100%. You know?
They always felt there was a part of my puzzle missing. Even though I didn't think there was a piece of my puzzle missing.
Right.
My parents always felt that I needed that. That they wish for me to, you're a father. You want your kids complete. You want them whole.
Yeah.
And they just felt that I would never be completely whole without some kind of connection.
Yeah.
But they would never push it, or whatever. My parents, they met, my mom's met, and my mom and dad and I went back.
And this was the first time they had met, because before...
Of course, they'd never seen each other. No.
Yeah.
No, they had never. My mom always said to me, for now it's Mother's Day is coming up. My mom would say, "No, don't forget, you go buy her a card."
That's precious.
And so now I got to buy 2 cards. And I should have patented this with Hallmark, because it's not easy to find a Mother's Day card to someone you just met.
Right. That's for
Because
sure.
they all say you were always there, or how much, and you don't want to do that because that'd make her feel bad. And you don't want to get her one that's blank, because nice to meet you after 30-some years. So it was really hard, and still is kind of hard to find a Mother's Day card, because you don't want to, hurt her feeling. But I send her Mother's Day cards, and one of the greatest picture memories for me was my mom and dad and I went back to North Carolina to meet them so they could see where they lived and all this kind of stuff. I'd already been there a couple times.
Okay.
And when we walked in their house, on their wall were my 4 sisters' graduation pictures and mine.
Wow.
That my mom had sent her.
Wow.
Remember when my picture, and I didn't even really realize that, but now so I'm just looking at, and there I am on their wall.
That's precious. Man.
So my bio mom had all of her graduation, and she missed out on that. And there's parts of that that's really hard when you're looking through a photo album, and you're like, I wonder sometimes what my sister's friends must think, because one page, and if they grew up together, and then the next page, here's this guy. Who's this? Oh, my brother. Your brother? I never knew you had a brother. Well, neither did I. Yeah. So it's really interesting, the dynamic of.
Well, bringing up the things that your biological mother missed out on. The one time that I do think about my adoptive parents, really, Christmas isn't it, and Easter, no, it's my birthday. And I just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I always think, well, I don't do anything for my birthday. I don't make it a big deal. My kids, mine's July 20th. One of my daughters is the 25th, and one of my daughters is the 28th. So I don't get a birthday anymore, which is great. But I think, well, are they remembering that this is the day that I was born, And
they are.
You wonder that,
They are.
And you as a parent, I know I would.
Yeah. Well, you just answered your own question.
Yeah.
My mom told me that when we met and everything, she goes, "I'm so happy I can finally send you a real birthday card now instead of a make-believe one in my mind." Oh. And I said, "Mom," she goes, "every year, for every year I would pretend to send you a birthday card."
Yeah.
So there's your answer.
Wow.
And now she can do it. People, again, out there, just you South Carolina people, if you know people that are adopted or in foster or blended families, so that's who I am, this book.
Yeah.
It's not just me and you. We both have similar stories, but there are people out there that that will benefit this. It's healing. There's some healing in it.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. I'm sure your wife would love to dig into this.
Oh, no, she would. She just knows this day is long. She would love
She'd
to
love
get to the
dig
bottom
in,
of
and
all
maybe
of
your
it.
kids too. But you have to be prepared. I don't know because I was rejected again on the father's side of this story too. So.
Well, when you're rejected, do you drop it? Is it something you pursue?
I can't drop it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't drop it. Do we have a minute? Can I go into that story?
Yeah, definitely.
After this went, so I have 2 stories to tell you, and just kind of somebody blink at me if I'm going too long.
Time.
Okay.
Yeah.
there's two stories I want to share with you. Three. See, it's gonna. The one was I always wanted to smoke. I always wanted to smoke. Well, none of my family smokes. Nobody smoked. You know, we were raised in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Not that it has anything to do with it, but nobody smoked. I always wanted to smoke. As soon as I was 14 or 15, I tried one. I was hooked, and I smoked for 15 years.
Okay.
My parents hated it. I hated it, but I always wanted to smoke. Well, come to find out, when I met my biological mom, 30-some years later, she smoked when she was pregnant with me, because back then they did. So you can inherit stuff. You know, that was one.
Exactly.
The other thing was, after it went so well with my sister, I mean, when it went so well for me, I wanted that same experience for my sister, who was also adopted. My parents adopted me, and they adopted my sister, Charmaine. And so the same girl, Bina, believe it or not, she tracked down her biological mom. My sister was in foster care for 6 weeks. My sister was actually named Simone Plum. Simone Plum. Her mom's name was Suzanne.
Okay.
And so I found out where she lived, and it was about a 2-hour drive from my house. My sister and her pastor wrote a real sweet letter to Suzanne, you know, trying to introduce themselves. We could never get this lady to pick up the phone. We tried for months. She would never, ever pick up the phone, so Bina couldn't actually get to her.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, so anyway, I went to a store, and I bought a balloon and a rose or something, and I pretended to be like a delivery person. And I walked to her door, and I knocked on her door, and on the outside of the envelope, it said, to Suzanne from Simone. So I didn't know if she took a look at this and faint or cry or whatever, because it's from her she named her Simone.
Right, right.
So this lady answers the door, and I said, you know, hi, a delivery for Suzanne. And she says, well, I'm Suzanne. And so I handed her the stuff, and she looked at it, and she said, thank you very much, and shut the door. And I thought, well, nothing more I could do. A couple months later, my sister got a letter back from her doctor.
Okay.
Now, all growing up, my sister, and it's the strangest thing, she'd have nights where she'd be afraid to sleep. She'd either sleep in my floor, or my brother's floor, or with my parents. When she got a little older, she knew that she couldn't watch any show that had to do with rape.
Okay.
She'd say, I don't know what it is about rape, but I just can't watch anything, you know. Well, skip ahead. All these years later, she gets this letter from her doctor. Her mother was brutally raped and got pregnant with my sister.
Wow.
So my sister inherited all. I mean, again, we're from an Adventist family in a small community, and my sister's scared of the word rape.
Yeah.
So you get all the good stuff, but you get all the bad stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, that did not turn out. She doesn't really want any connection to my sister because of that situation. But I knew how important, and this is all in the book, but I knew how important it was to have a photo or to have something. And so every time I would do this trip to Vegas, which was a few times a year, I had to go by her house. And every time I'd just drive by her house and hope she'd be outside. And I have a little camera with me, just hope. Well, one time, sure enough, I pull up in front of her house, and there's 3 women outside. And I can hear them talking about, I just sat on the side of the road and listened, and I could hear they were going to go grocery shopping. So I thought, okay, I'm going to follow them to the grocery store. So I waited and I followed them to the grocery store. And then when I found out what grocery store they were going to, I went ahead so they wouldn't think I was following them. So now I'm in the supermarket, and I'm following them as they're getting stuff, and then I'm videotaping her. And I just followed them around. And so when I was done, I took it, turned it off, and now, so my sister at least can hear her mom, and she can see her mom. I have video of that. And
you never got caught doing it that day?
Did not get
you
caught.
Got, you're sneaky.
I'll tell you what I did. And I was so nervous. And lots of times, they would turn around because I wanted to get as much as I could. And I would just, the cell phone looked almost like a phone. You know, like it's different than it is now. And I would say, oh, did you say tomato or potato? Oh, potato. And then I'd get back on them. But when I got up to the I followed them right to the cash register.
Wow.
And then they were ahead of me. And then while in line, I thought, what am I going to do? I'm not going to buy all this. I just put stuff in. So I just said, oh, I forgot my wallet in the car. And so I just left and drove to Vegas and gave my sister that footage, but that footage is so important. It's not only so much important to her, but it's important to her to her kids.
Right.
Because
right.
now her kids can see what their grandma looked like and sounded like, and that's for my sister. That's enough for now. The other story that I want to say, and it's in the book, so That's Who I Am on Amazon.com.
It's on Amazon. You Facebook. There it is. So That's Who I Am. R. Chauncey Smith.
Oh, it's right here.
Yep. And on the is there a website too? They can get a hard copy. I guess Amazon. You
Amazon,
get the hard copy or download.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
But to everybody out there, just go to Chauncey Smith on Facebook and tell me that you watch this show, and I'd love to talk to you more about it.
Chauncey, let's talk about your third story, and that's your biological father. Talk about reaching out to him and everything.
What had happened was my friend Bina, same thing, reached out to him, found him, had a conversation with him, asked if he knew Loretta. He did, of course. That he knew, remember they dated. He had heard that she'd had a daughter, or you know, and my friend Bina said, well, yeah, he has, but her first child was a baby boy. You have a son, and he was like, I do. I mean, he was like quite okay with it until we hear somebody very loud in the background. What? You what? Who? What? No, screaming, whatever. So he said this is not a good time. And like I said earlier in the interview, Bina, who wrote a chapter in the book about the do's and the don'ts, had left her number with them in case. So a few days later, he called back to her and said, you know, this is just not good timing. My wife, I don't know what's going on in their life. You know, you don't want to interrupt their life.
Right.
You're not more important than their kids. They don't even know who you are. So you just have to be respectful of whatever's on the other side of that phone call. And we did respect. And so my friend said, look, he's successful. He doesn't need any money. He doesn't want any. All he wants is some pictures. If he could just have a picture of you and your kids. And the wife said absolutely not. She wasn't going to tell the kids, and no. So that was kind of the end of that. But then God does what God does. And now take in mind, I have 4 sisters on my mom, and one of them lived in Ohio for a while, which is where the bio father was. Now she had never heard of this man until me. So all she knew was that when she met me, that her mom used to date my dad, and that his name was Ray Campbell. And so one morning, she was going through the newspaper in Ohio, and she saw a wedding invitation. The daughter of Ray Campbell, Karen, is getting married, and she goes, Campbell. She goes, I wonder if that's Chauncey's dad, biological dad. So she clipped out the article in the paper, and she mailed it to me. Well, then we did a little more research, and sure enough, I have a sister, Karen. So I knew that. So now at least I had a picture of one of my sisters.
Right.
You know, but it also had the address to the wedding and the date and the time. So a friend of mine got on a plane, and we flew to Ohio. And we went to the wedding, and we sat on the groom's side. And I had a camera. And back then, these were not like a little thing. This was a pretty good-sized camera. And we had that and a still camera. And we got the program, you know. And so when I saw this person, said the mother of the, I'm like, walked down by, oh, that's my brother. So I got to see my brother. Click, click, click. And then the matron of honor, that was the other sister. So I got to see the sisters. And I got to see the wife that wasn't being very nice. And then the music started. And at this point, I had the camera. And the video camera. And then the music starts, so everyone stands up. And I knew when I turned around, I was going to see my dad for the very first time, and my sister. And I thought, what if my mom and I look a lot alike. You'll see that. I thought, what if we're twin? What if he looks at me and I look at him and it ruins her wedding? I didn't want to do any of that.
Right.
But I turned around, we didn't. But I start doing this, crying, and so my friend takes the camera and he got the rest of it. So I had all that. And the one thing I didn't have yet was the voices, and that's very important to me. So after the wedding, I walked up to my brother, and my friend's videotaping the whole thing, and I said, oh, that was a great wedding. Congratulations. I just made up some kind of conversation, shook his hand, have it all on tape, and I said, hey, can I get a quick picture? And he's like, okay. So I got a picture of my brother. He didn't know that I was. So then I went to the matron of honor, and I said, how do you get to the reception? So I had her on camera, but then I didn't have the bride our father. And everyone was leaving to the reception, so we went to the reception. When we got there, I made friends with the DJ, and I pretended, I'm sorry I lied, but I pretended to be a part of the DJ group so people didn't know, because people were wondering who were these two guys?
Right,
you know?
right.
And so I said to my friend, I walked up to my father, and I said to my friend, please don't, make sure you hit record. Don't have this on
Yeah, exactly.
Don't have this on pause.
This is a
once in a lifetime thing. So I walked up to my dad, and I said, that was a beautiful wedding, sir. And he shook my hand, having no idea I was his son. And I got it. I got it. Wow. And now the only one left was the sister Karen, who I hadn't really talked to or touched. And so now outside, everyone's in the reception. The only people that are outside are the wedding party, the DJ, and my friend and I with the camera.
That's it.
And so we have this all on video. And so we're taping Karen, the bride, and we see her look at us like. And then she walks over to her mom and dad, and she whispers something to her mom and dad, and then all 6 eyes turn to us. Oh, Lord. At that point, we said, go. Yeah. And we got to the car. We got to the car, and off we went. And so about 2 years after that, my friend called. It was important for me to have him know I was there. So my friend called still. The mother wouldn't, no contact. And we're not talking, her kids are in their 40s.
Right. Right.
It's not like they're teenagers.
It's not like she's having to protect them from something.
Well, she is for some reason.
But yeah.
She is for some reason. And so my friend said, well, Chauncey wanted you to know that you did meet. He was at that wedding. And he's like, he was? And he said, you know, we've often wondered who those two...
Who was those weirdos
those
with the
two
video
weirdos with the video camera. So I like to think, in my imagination, I like to think he probably patted me on the shoulder and said, you know, good for my son. Yeah. And then he died a little bit after that. So, but.
Well, any contact with your brothers and sisters?
No, so far they still. Now, when he died, I called the older sister Lisa, and she's civil. She's kind. Okay. But she's not. She says.
Your older sister or your father's?
I'm sorry, my dad's oldest daughter.
So your aunt. Then. Oh, okay.
My dad's. I'm the oldest.
Okay. Okay.
Of all of them.
Okay.
But then he had a Lisa, and a Ray, and a Karen. Okay. And Lisa's their oldest, and I called her and introduced myself. And I've talked to her 3 or 4 times over the phone. But because I said, Lisa, I'm sorry you lost your dad, I'm sorry. I said, I just want to know medically. And she agrees. She goes, you have a right. She goes, this isn't your fault. Right. She goes, and I will tell my brother and sister to call you. I will tell them. And then a year would go by, and I'll call her again, and she's cordial. And she says they're just not ready. And we talk for about a minute or two, and I just thank her. I said, Lisa, just thank you for picking up the phone. Thank you that I could hear my sister's voice. And she's kind. Yeah. And I still haven't heard. So there's rejection again. I had such a wonderful experience and was so accepted and loved to be rejected again.
Well, when you go into a situation, because you've done it a lot now, so you've got to have these feelings under control somewhat or something, but is there a way that you prepare, because you know that you may be rejected? So did you go into that thinking, okay, I can handle this if I'm rejected, or was that just blindsided?
Sure. And I think a little bit with your story and what you might or might not do, I think you're going to go through the same thing. I think you have to be prepared for both, and you don't even want to get too excited or too sad. You don't want to put yourself out there too much, because it can go either way. Yeah. But you do want it to go right. You do. But, you know, even going wrong, like for my sister, whose mother, you know, my sister has closure. She at least knows now what happened. Right. She has a picture. You know, she has a cousin. My sister found a cousin that will talk to her. Awesome. And so that's enough for her. And she looks like the cousin. Yeah. They look like brother and sister.
That's cool.
So that's what I'm saying. The cousins are important. The nieces are important. The husbands and wives are important. The school teachers, the pastors, the church congregation. Yeah. Adoption and blended families affects so many people. I like to say blended families are awesome. Yeah. You know, they don't have a choice. Yeah. They don't have a choice.
And with blended families, we're talking about not just adoption or foster or something, but we live in a country today, and it's weird. I travel a lot, so do you, go out of the country. They don't believe us when we talk about the divorce rate in this country. It's almost with the marriage rate. I mean, it's like 49 and 51%. It's crazy. You know, and that's what we're talking about is people getting married and divorced and remarried, having children, and you know, it's like that.
It's never the child's
Never,
choice.
never.
You know, when they get a new family, it's not they're not the ones that did it. So it's an adjustment for them. So the more information, you know, for this has a lot of information. A lot of research was done for this book. A lot of experts, a lot of people's opinion, good and bad, and so forth. Many of your viewers will probably know Sandy Patty, the 5-time Grammy winner. She wrote the foreword to this for me. Awesome. Sandy Patty, she had 4 kids. Then she married a gentleman, Don, wonderful guy, who has 3 kids. Don himself is adopted, and Sandy and Don adopted their 8th child, Sam.
Wow.
So Sandy gets it from both sides. And I was just so honored that Sandy Patty wrote. And there's some General Hospital stars and people that have written little things in here, a little input from back in the soap opera days. And so
well, let's talk about that, because so far it's been about adoption, but you live in LA. We mentioned Lifestyle Magazine. You're the producer and talent coordinator, and you've worked on countless numbers of shows, both large productions, small productions, and everything in between.
By the way, that makes me sound good. Thank you.
I'm trying to think of more things I can throw in there, you know. But you know everybody in Hollywood, seems like.
Wow.
You talk about a lot of this in the book. You've got a lot of good stories about Hollywood in the book. Tell us about all this. This is
Sure.
cool.
Yeah, well, I, as a kid, always wanted to be in the entertainment business. I thought I wanted to act. I pursued that to some degree. I was dating this girl. She lived across the street from me. And every day, from 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she wouldn't budge in front of that TV. And that's when General Hospital was on. I had never even heard of General Hospital. But I'd go over it, you know, and pretty soon I'd go at 2 o'clock. Pretty soon I'd be going at, I mean, I started going at like 10 to 3, then 2:30. Pretty soon I was the first one waiting to watch that show. I was so hooked on that show that I couldn't understand. I just loved that show. And I found out later that the General Hospital cast was doing a big fundraiser for some hospital or some baseball game. They were doing something. And we went down there, me and all 30,000 other people. And I was pushed up against the fence. It was screaming. And I said to my friends at the time, I said, I will never again be on this side of the fence. They're like, yeah. I said, no, I'm never again going to be on this side of the fence. So I found out when the next General Hospital softball game, charity softball game was, and I remembered the uniforms that they had. I remember what they had. And so I went out and made myself one as close as I possibly could as to that. And then at the next game, I went up and there was all the security and stuff, and I pretended that you know, and so they let me in, and I went to the bench, and I just sat down, not knowing a soul, and walked up to one of the actresses, and so then they saw me talking, and they just let me stay. Make a long story short, I was on General Hospital years later, and to this day, I book people from General Hospital on Lifestyle Magazine, and it's been wonderful, because for our show too, you know, it always helps when you have a celebrity on your show, because it stops the channel surfers. Yeah. And so we just shot a new season of Lifestyle Magazine. We have Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels and Lonnie Anderson from WKRP in Cincinnati. Some of you older viewers will know who they are. Debbie Boone, You Light Up My Life. So many authors and experts, and I've been with this company going on 27 years. I've been working on that show.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, in Hollywood, I've only been to Hollywood maybe twice in my life. I had to spend a lot of time out there, you know. But here in South Carolina, we're the Bible Belt. I mean, everybody here, you can't walk a half a mile without bumping into a Baptist church.
Well, then they would know Sandy Patty.
They would, exactly.
Absolutely, who I love.
But is it hard being a Christian in Hollywood?
It used to be.
Okay.
It used to be.
Talk about
Back
that.
on General Hospital, there were times that, and I did tamper with stuff. You'll see that in the book. There were drugs, there was alcohol, there was sleeping around, all that stuff. And I was in high school. And back then, I would tell my parents, my poor mother, I just lived that life. I was so involved. We didn't go to one party a night. We went to 7. And I would be gone. I would leave my house. As soon as the bell rang Friday afternoon from school, I would be gone till Monday morning.
And you raised up in a Christian home?
Seventh-day Adventist Christian home. Yeah. Two or three of the major stars took me under their wing. I did have alcohol when I wasn't supposed to, and I went to all kinds of places under 21 that I wasn't supposed to. But I was with the stars, so we got in. And there was drugs and everything. But I had 2 or 3 friends that really just kept me away from the major part of that. But yes, certainly back then I was kind of known as the Christian kid. But yeah, for a while it definitely was. But now, no. Now it's okay to be a Christian. You know, more and more people admit it. More and more people Hollywood admit it, because you need the Lord. You know, there's no better. I mean, Hollywood will run you right back to Jesus. And so more and more people are accepting if you say you love the Lord.
Awesome.
And you know, you have to be that example too. You know, I'm not a preacher. I don't want to be a preacher. That's not what I want to do. But I certainly, in this book, and with you know, God, to God be the glory.
Yeah. Well, preachers are wonderful. They can't do it all. God uses everybody.
Everybody.
God uses you. He's going to use this book in a powerful way. I know that.
I hope so. I hope your people will be out there getting it.
It takes everybody. It takes the whole body of Christ to feed this hungry world that's lost and dying, and they're starving out there for Jesus. And like you said, if you get out there and get lost, you got to go to Jesus.
They'll bring it back. Which is, I hope, in your story, whatever you do or don't do, I hope you kind of take in mind what you just said, where people need, and I don't just mean Jesus, but if you start to dig into your history and your family, you are going to see the Lord will be right there with you. And you are going to see, I mean, how do you know that you can't change someone's life? Just by shaking their hand, just by meeting a cousin or something. You just never know. And better to take that chance than not. But you know, but hang on. Hang on, because it's a roller coaster ride.
Well, I've got a lot of drama in my life. Do I need to add more? We'll find out. So let's take a break for a song. When we come back, we're going to wrap this thing up, folks. We're going to tell you again how to get the book, Chauncey Smith, Facebook, Chauncey Smith. So that's who I am on Facebook. Lots of ways to get a hold of you. Of course, your show, Lifestyle Magazine, airs here on 16.2.
Thank you for that.
Oh, man, we love it.
And thank you to you viewers that watch Lifestyle Magazine. Thank you very, very much.
Well, let's go to Johnathan Bond again, and he's going to be singing God's Still Good. We'll be right back.
Yes, he is.
He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He took the water, he turned it into wine. He healed the crippled man, gave sight back to the blind. With just a few fish and a little bread, there were over 5,000 people that were fed. God's still God, He has not changed. God's still God, He's always the same. Just believe and you will receive. He's waiting on you to say God's still God. And God's still God. He took a drunkard, washed him white as snow. A lady of the night He cleansed and made her whole. There was a body where all my bones were crushed, until the hand of Jesus healed with one mighty touch. God's still God, He has not changed. God's still God, He's always the same. Just believe and you will receive. He's waiting on you to say God's still God. What about you? Friends, are you living in pain? He came to say you don't have to live that way. When Jesus died on Calvary, He made a way for you and for me. God's still God, He has not changed. God's still God, He's always the same. Just believe and you will receive. He's waiting on you to say God's still God. He's waiting on you to say God's still God.
Hey, Johnathan Bond, thank you so much, doing a good job. And you can check him out at youngharmony.com. He's just out of Chattanooga. Give him a call. There's his number on the screen, 423-280-0547. I need new glasses.
Do you? Can you see me okay?
I can see you great.
Oh,
There's
good.
those little tiny numbers up there on that screen. I guess I got it right here.
He's good. Jonathan's good. Yeah.
He's good. He's good. I like saying the name, too, Bond.
Bond.
Johnathan Bond. So
I met Roger Moore.
Did you really?
I did. I was good friends with Richard Keel, who played Jaws.
Okay.
The big guy that Did you ever see the? Do you know who I'm talking about? In the James Bond movies.
The original Jaws. Yeah.
The big. He's 7 foot. Yeah.
I know.
I was very good friends with him. He's a Christian.
See, I wasn't
Was
a
a Christian.
huge. Well, I like Roger Moore's Bond, but it wasn't the huge.
Right.
Roger Moore. But
right.
he's good.
Yeah.
I like all Bond movies.
Yeah, it was kind of cool
yeah.
to sit in a room with the two of them.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun.
We'll talk
fun
about
time.
this because this is neat. Me personally, I don't get starstruck that much, and I would rather meet somebody. And I'm not saying stars aren't real. I'd rather meet somebody that's real, that's got something to add and value to my life. Because the people you see on screen typically is not who they are.
That is true. For me, I think really the only time I was a fan. I take that back. I am a fan to a lot of these people, but I've never gone up and just like asked an autograph or a photo.
Right.
I have hundreds of photos, but they've always been shows I've worked on, or I've been the producer, or I booked them. So I had a reason to say, hey, can I get a photo or something with you?
And so at that point, they're really more
a coworker,
a colleague, a friend versus the person that played this and
and it's
hey, look, it's me and James Bond. No,
right, and
you
it's
and
my
Roger Moore.
career. In my career, you have to be at these parties, you have to be at these events, you have to be like, for instance, now that you and I are friends, and if I happen to know that Sandy Patty or someone's going to be in the area, I can call you up.
Yeah.
And I can say, hey, this is a good show. These are great people. Go do it, because it's all word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
And working in show business, you have to have those contacts, and it's helped having a name like Chauncey, because it's not like Bob, And so, and nothing against you, Bobs.
Bobs are wonderful.
Right, but it's a career. I've always wanted to do it.
So
I always knew I wanted.
Anybody that's like, oh my goodness, there's what's his name?
That I still would like to meet. I would like to meet Paul McCartney.
Okay, I would like to. Meet
I'd like
Paul.
to shake his hand.
Neat.
I'd like to shake his hand. I think, and I've.
But would you go out of your way to meet Paul?
You mean
like crazy out of your way?
No, like a fan, no.
Would you fly to Liverpool right now
no.
and go say hey to Paul
No,
McCartney?
but I would try to find a way to book him somewhere where he would know my name just like I would know his name.
Yeah.
And then I would say, will you sign this, or if it felt appropriate. But no, I wouldn't go up in a restaurant. But luckily, too, I've been doing this a long, long time. So sometimes I'll be somewhere and I don't know them. I'm trying to think of who they would be. Maybe it'll come to mind. But I know their best friend. So I can say, oh, I just had dinner with so-and-so. And they'll be, so it's not like I'm a fan. I still won't ask for a photo, though, or something, unless, I don't know, I just think they deserve that privacy. But there are certain people out there that, they're just amazing. I think Paul McCartney is, I was a fan of Sandy Patty's. I remember the first time I heard her sing on TV, and I just went, oh my goodness. And I never thought that we would be, we're very, very close. Our families are close, she's close, but yeah.
Well, I know for me, and it's only because I'm sitting here in front of that camera. Trust me, it's nothing I do. It's people's perception, I guess. But people,
you get recognized.
They recognize
sure they
it,
do. Sure.
And I've only had this happen a handful of times in my life, but it doesn't get any less awkward. It's when somebody asks you for your autograph.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I know, it's weird. I know.
Which I'm flattered. Continue. And please, by all means, when you see me out in public, please talk to me. Because if somebody doesn't speak to you, if nobody ever talked to me, I wouldn't know anybody's watching.
Right.
Because I'm looking at our camera lens out there. I don't get to see these people,
Right.
So I enjoy meeting
It's important for people to come up, and you hope you don't have a big bite of spaghetti.
Yeah.
when they're up doing it.
It happens more than you think.
Yeah.
So.
But no, and again, it's not what you're doing, and with this book and what I'm doing. It's not about us.
Exactly.
And that's why that's why it's working for me. That's why I'm here on your show. That's why I have a book.
Yeah.
It's to give. I remember years ago when I started paying tithe, and when I started really giving God the glory, truly,
That's when your
those two things, that's when the doors just flew open
Yep.
for me. And I cared less about what star. Everything changed for me. It just was about the show, Lifestyle Magazine.
Yeah.
Or it was about, I wanted stars to endorse and help me with this, and I had to pull favors. That's a hard thing. You know, you have to call your friends and say, look, will you promote my book on your webpage? Will you promote my book?
Think about it this way. If you had a close friend of yours that wrote a book and asked you to help promote it, you wouldn't hesitate.
I would not hesitate.
It's the same way with them. I know it's harder to ask, but think about that.
But you still have to ask,
know.
and there are certain ones that, and I understand this. I have to say, so far, no one has said no to me, but I'm always ready for the no, and it's because if they do it for me, then it's not like you that maybe have 100 fans that see you a day. These people have 10,000 fans,
Exactly.
and if they do it for one, they have to do it for all. But so far, everyone has been willing to everyone that has read the book, endorsed the book, loved the book. So many of them have blended families or have adopted kids or want to. So it's been helpful.
Yeah. Well, I want to give he's talking about people endorsing the book and read the book. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Greg West.
Oh, I know.
He's recognized in the book.
Yes,
and
he
I think
is.
was the two families.
I have to tell you, he's such a good guy, and I don't know the viewers a bit mean, but he's involved
Our
with
viewers
with this.
know him. Yeah.
Oh, your viewers know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't, he's the president of WATC Channel 57 in Atlanta. The station my parents also started. He's been there for 20 years, 25 years, whatever.
Such a nice
Super
man,
guy.
and I've met him at many events over the years, and we were in Miami at a television conference. And since we knew each other, we decided we'd go out for dinner and stuff. And I told him that I was writing this book and doing this and that, and I had some roadblocks. It's a journey. It's a tough. It's not easy. At least it wasn't for me.
Right.
And we were talking. He said he started coming up with some really good ideas. I thought on a napkin. You know, he was really on target.
He's creative.
And so I said to him, I said, I'm going to send this to the editors. I'm going to send this to the people. And if they like it and they put it in there, I'm going to thank you in the book. And I think he doesn't. Yeah, he's thanked in the book.
That's awesome. So,
because he did good.
well, it had to be emotional and difficult through all this, no doubt about that. But then sharing it with the world, not just your friends, but with the world through the book. How did it come about? Did you say, well, this is going to bless people, or you just had to get it off your chest, or were you hesitant somebody put you up to the book?
No, all of that kind of in a way. But even just today, talking to you about this interview was helping. But one of your camera people today, she just told me that her brother's adopted, and it just warms my heart.
Yeah.
You know, because we're out there. You know.
Yeah.
And
Well, at lunch, our restaurant,
right.
we thought it opened at 11. It opened at 11:30. We're outside waiting for them to open, and you got talking to a lady, and her family had brought in a cousin or something.
Right,
and
for 10 years, for
10
foster.
years,
Yeah.
and it was just such a similar situation.
Her eyes got this big, and you know that's what it's for. It's for that. You know, no one wants to see a child suffer. No one wants to see a child not complete. So when you think about blended families, or you think about foster care, or you think about adoption, it usually is children.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's even harder to talk about when these poor kids that are teenagers and stuff that later. I mean, but it doesn't matter how old you are.
Right.
Adoption and blended family, it affects the family, because what it says here is it's two families, one story.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always room for love. I mean, so
There you
many
go. That's
kids,
good.
You talking about teenagers. I know teenagers and have seen them in the system, in the foster care systems, and this. They go through it their whole lives until they're 18. They kick them out with nothing. You know, maybe they graduated high school. If they didn't, nobody cares.
Right.
And then what happens? They ended up drugs, dead, prison, or it's a cyclical thing where they get married. Same thing. They leave their family. They think it's the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not. So it's never too late for a child, especially a child, but a teenager or even a young adult. You know,
And to talk
show
about
love
it,
to these.
to show love and to talk about and show respect. You may not have to love them, but you need to like them.
Yeah.
You need to respect them, and that's how I feel about the biological father side of everything.
Yeah.
It's weird, and when he died, my biological dad died. I suffered.
Yeah.
And I had only met him. I didn't even know him. I met him once, you know, at the wedding. But it was the first time I had lost a parent.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's weird.
That would be,
It's weird to miss somebody you don't know, to love somebody you don't know, to be a part of somebody you don't know. When I first met my biological mom, I was on the airplane, and we were flying, and when that plane landed, now there was a lady sitting next to me. I must have been a basket case because she ended up wanting, what's wrong with you? And so I told her the story. She started sobbing. The people ahead of us started sobbing. So when we got off, I asked her if she would take my camera and videotape me coming off the plane. She said she would. And so I remember in the plane, I stood up and I said, okay, Lord, push. You know, don't be subtle. Push me off this plane.
Yeah.
You know, I need that burning bush.
Yeah.
And so I walked off the plane, and at the first person at the end of the hallway, the gate, you know, I saw somebody that looked like me. For the first time in my life, I saw me. And it was my biological mom and 2 out of my 4 sisters.
Wow. Wow.
And I knew it. I knew it.
Wow. Well, you've lost your adopted mother.
My mom passed, yeah.
But your adopted mother and your biological mother has got to become
They,
close.
oh, yeah, they sent each other Mother's Day cards.
Wow, wow. But
Yeah.
your biological mother is still living up
Yes,
in North
I'm going to
Carolina,
see her this
doing
week.
well.
Yeah.
So while you're on the East Coast, you're going to go see her.
Yeah.
Um,
And my 4 sisters.
and your 4 sisters. And the relationship with them is like you've known them your entire life.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It just, every visit, we learn more about each other.
Yeah.
And what my mom has said a few times, here's a strange thing. All this journey, my mom that raised me, who passed, Marilyn, I would always call my bio mom, because it didn't feel right calling her mom, and it didn't feel right calling her Loretta. So I just came up with bio mom. So but I just never could call bio mom in front of my mom.
Right.
But I could always call mom in front of bio mom. I hope that didn't confuse everybody. You can rewind or DVR, see if I made any sense.
Turn on closed caption. No, it makes sense because your mother
Who raised
raised
me?
you.
Yeah. And you know, it's like I said.
She was there.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Loretta.
No, gosh,
but
no.
she was there changing your diaper.
Yeah.
She was there,
Yeah.
you know, mending your scraped
Yeah.
knees.
Yeah.
Or during your first breakup, she was there comforting.
Absolutely.
I mean, she
It's-
was there.
It's not hard to
During
get pregnant. What's hard is to raise a child
Exactly.
for 50 years. You know, and that's why it's back to the part about trying to find a card for my biological mom.
Yeah.
It's just you. It was different. My mom is my mom who raised me, and now that the closer I get to biological mom, in the last few years I've been calling her mom too, because it just feels right.
Right.
And she's just a classy, great lady.
Yeah.
With the way she raised those 4 daughters, her and her husband, who did pass. Yeah, it's. I love every time we go. Every time I go to visit, they 2 of the sisters came out. My mom came out once to California and met my family and all my friends. We had a big party, and all my friends from California got to meet her, and 2 of my sisters. And then 2 of my sisters have come out alone to visit.
Good.
And my mom, who passed away, she would always call the daughters her 4 North Carolina daughters.
That's precious. That's precious.
And my sisters called her their California mom.
My California mama. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Well, is it the same relationship with Barry and your sister? And so they're close, not
They-
as
my-
close naturally as you, but they're close to the 4.
Oh, they're very
and
close. My
Loretta.
sister, my brother's not on Facebook.
Okay.
But my sister is. And yeah, they're all friends. My sister and the 4 sisters, and yeah.
Good.
And I've talked, you know, the sisters have wrote something. Everybody has a part in this book, and you do have to be kind of careful because you don't want to step on somebody's toes, you know.
Well, and I'll believe and pray for you that your Ohio family, as an
I'd
Ohio,
appreciate that.
would
Thank
come
you.
along. Because again, not the children's fault, not your fault, not
Right.
their fault,
Right.
not the children's fault. And so I know that'd mean a lot to you, and it probably will mean a lot to them.
You know, there was a time on Facebook where remember I told you that I took a picture of my brother at the wedding. When I found him on Facebook, I sent that to him with a little description, you know, saying, "I hope you don't mind," whatever, and never heard a word. And then he went off Facebook for the longest time. And so now that they're back on, I found out they're all back on Facebook. and I just have to bite my tongue. And I can kind of just spy on them and stay out of it, but at least I can kind of see pictures and stuff like that. But I have to be honest, people out there, I do have to tell you that I do wonder why they don't like me. You know, I do suffer. It does bother me, maybe more than it should, but it does.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you watch this program, we're not telling you what to do. We're not telling you the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it. This is one man's experience, and it's worked out beautifully for him. It was hard. It was tough. There was so much drama in it, I couldn't imagine swimming through all that, but it was worth it, though, for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And not just for me, and this is what I hope with you and your journey or whatever you decide to do, is you will find you're not alone in this, and it will benefit other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't just about you. You're the one that controls it. You're in charge.
Right.
But if and when you do whatever, you will see that other people will come around, and it kind of creates a whole new family, or a whole new friend, or a whole new, whatever you want to call it, network, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, Chauncey, I want to thank you so much for coming out here to South Carolina, all the way from Hollywood to see us.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I'm really, it's a privilege to be here and to meet your staff, and everyone has been so kind, and so I hope everybody in South Carolina that's watching this will get the book. So that's who I am. Am I looking at the right camera?
You
Should I go?
certainly are.
Does it matter what camera I look at?
It don't matter right now because they got your book up.
Oh, they got it up?
Yeah, see there?
So I'm not even on.
You're not even on.
Well, get that book.
Yeah. So now you're on. Look, now you can wave to everybody. So that's who I am, Chauncey Smith, 2 families, 1 story. Get it, Amazon.com. Go to his Facebook page, which is So That's Who I Am.
Or Chauncey Smith.
Chauncey Smith. So,
yeah.
And of course, Lifestyle Magazine. You're a producer and talent coordinator. You do it all. Beautiful show, by the way. The set looks great. The guests are good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't watch a lot of television because when I'm in my office.
Are you going to watch this interview?
No.
Okay.
Not because of you, okay? Not because it's me, and you're the same way. I know.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll watch it.
It's not looking at me. It's my voice. I can't stand my voice.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that weird?
And people think that we like, but we don't.
No, So I'd never watch myself. People ask me, "Who's that guest you had on?" And if it's pre-taped or something, and it's just like, when did it air? It's just,
well, to your assistant, Allison, I kept saying, "Is my hair okay? Am I tucked in? Am I all right?" So.
I'll share this video. I won't watch it though. Anyway, Chauncey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Be sure
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be praying for you too.
Thank you. Get the book, So That's Who I Am.
Please.
Dante Thompson, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.